Welcome inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams. This week, we head to the woods for a masterclass in foraging for wild mushrooms.
There are old mushroom hunters, and there are bold mushroom hunters, but there are no old, bold mushroom hunters.
And the woman behind the popular TikTok account Appalachian Forager makes jam from pawpaws and jewelry from coyote teeth.
I like taking anything from the frickin' woods, bringing it home and turning it into something beautiful, useful, because that's just how I am,
We also visit the Alleghany Highlands, where mountain maple syrup traditions are changing with the times.
We're trying to break the traditions a little bit.
People kept asking, what you have that's new? Nobody had anything that was new.
These stories and more this week inside Appalachia. Welcome inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams. Here along the Blue Ridge, where I live, it's almost time to start foraging for wild mushrooms. Mushroom hunting has always been a part of Appalachian culture, but especially in recent years, mushrooms have been having a moment. In 2023, Folkways reporter Wendy Welch spent time with fungi enthusiasts in Virginia and West Virginia and brought us this story.
It's an overcast but hot morning, and I'm in the backseat of a car on the way to hunt for mushrooms.
Mushrooms have been so hot lately. They might be like the superstars,
That's Amy McLaughlin. Her husband, Sean Means, is driving. We're talking about the mushrooms that are featured in the hit show The Last of Us. They're called cordyceps. In the show, cordyceps mutate and eat people's brains. In real life, they don't do that, at least not to people.
There are mushrooms that are parasitic, and they do have the same name, the genus, as the ones in that show. But at this time, we do not believe that they will inhabit human bodies. Well, they do take over bugs.
Bugs. Yeah, they absolutely do. Cordyceps, they get inside of the bugs into their nervous system, and they do take over them. When the fungus is ready to produce the fruiting body, it kills the bug and comes up out of the bug.
Wow. Sean and Amy are West Virginia master naturalists. They run a boutique vacation rental called Lafayette Flats in Fayetteville, next to the New River Gorge National Park and Preserve. They lead ecotours for people who stay in their flats, pointing out unique flora, fauna, and fungi in the area. If you want mushrooms in your life, there are two main paths to follow: farming or foraging. Misidentifying a fungus to use as food or medicine can be lethal. So foragers tend to hunt in packs until they're experts. Experienced hunters like Amy and Sean teach the newbies. As we disembark, Sean quotes a proverb known to every mushroom enthusiast in America.
There are old mushroom hunters, and there are bold mushroom hunters, but there are no old, bold mushroom hunters.
In other words, it's a good idea to be careful when hunting fungi. The couple lead me into the forest. Birdsong fills the air and dry leaves crackle underfoot, which is a bad sign, Sean points out. Mushrooms proliferate after rainfall. A mushroom, known officially as a fruiting body, is the smallest part of a larger living organism that needs a lot of water and can cover miles, all out of sight to the human eye.
You're in the woods and you see the trees and you see the mushrooms, and then if you just stop and think, the vast majority of the fungus is underneath us, and just think about that for a minute, the dark soil, the earth underneath us, and that huge organism that's under there that's pushing all the fruiting bodies up. I think that's fascinating to think about.
There are also mushrooms that grow from wood rather than soil. But today we're hunting chanterelles, which do grow in the ground. It's not going well.
I don't see any mushrooms at all.
Chanterelles would have been easy to spot had Amy been around. They're popular for teaching new foragers because of their bright yellow color and distinctive fluted edges that make them look like a tiny trumpet. They're hard to mix up with any other mushroom, but not impossible.
There's one called a jack-o'-lantern mushroom, and it doesn't really, once you learn the difference, it doesn't look anything like a chanterelle. It has very different characteristics, but it's kind of the same color. So if you were a newbie and you just were, going through the woods and saw that color, it's possible you could get excited, and those are poisonous. They're not going to kill you, but they're going to make you sick.
We find the target of our hunt after just a few minutes, but it's a disappointment.
Ugh, one chanterelle, and it's old.
Not every mushroom hunt is successful. After another fruitless half hour, we leave the woods. Lucky for me, Sean and Amy have promised to take me back to their house and cook up some mushrooms they've already foraged. In their well-appointed kitchen, decorated with mushroom art, Sean hauls a double handful of fungi foraged yesterday from the fridge. When I find out the plan for eating the chanterelles, though, I briefly consider making a run for it. Sean cooks down the little fluted trumpets in butter until they're lightly crispy, mixes in a small amount of honey, and serves this over vanilla ice cream.
And now we eat.
It turns out that chanterelle ice cream sundaes are actually very tasty.
Oh, good. Wasn't it good?
Mushroom hunting with experts is also a rare treat. But if learning to identify the roughly 2,500 species that grow in central Appalachia feels daunting, try mushroom farming. It's safer, simpler, and less subject to the vagaries of rainfall. To home-grow mushrooms, all you need is a log or a cardboard box and some spawn.
Well, we are mushroom farmers for 8 years, but originally we started on log and buying spawn and inoculating logs, and then moved on to buying spawn and growing oysters in straw.
That's Ben Harder. He runs Den Hill Farm and Fungi in Christiansburg, Virginia. The farm offers workshops on cultivating fresh mushrooms, and business is booming. One of his most popular workshops teaches people to inoculate logs with spawn, also known as mycelium. Inoculating a log means drilling a hole and pushing the mycelium into the wood. There it will feed and be fed in a symbiotic relationship, taking in carbohydrates from the log, then pushing out B vitamins and minerals like potassium through the fruiting body. I caught up with Harder while he was vending at the Blacksburg Farmers Market, and he shared his personal interest story into mushroom farming.
I started a vegetable farm. I was a horticulture student. Things were going all right, but one day at the farmer's market, a Appalachian Trail through hiker that happened to live in Blacksburg was coming through, and they were trying to sell these shiitake logs that they had inoculated so that they could finish the Appalachian Trail. It was amazing to see this log that probably had 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds of mushrooms growing out of it. It just kind of blew my mind that mushrooms were taking this waste product, a log worth nothing but firewood, and making a high value retail product out of it. They're making something out of nothing. And so he sold me the logs. That year I killed them because I left them inside a barn and they dried out. But the next year I started inoculating logs. And from there, it's kind of been a steady growth.
In just a couple of years, they went from vending 100% fruits and vegetables to 40% produce and 60% fungi. Their best-seller home-growing method isn't logs, though. It's a countertop kit.
Doing the tabletop farm or the mushroom fruiting block on your counter, it's really quite the experience. It looks so beautiful. It's like a living bouquet.
Countertop box kits were everywhere during the pandemic, and they've stuck around. Harder sells bags of spawn you put in your own box. Walmart sells cardboard blocks full of specific spawn. Stash the open box in a dark corner of your kitchen counter. Keep it wet but not soaking, and in a couple of weeks,
you can just kind of see it come, and then when it's at its prime, you get to just pluck off the mushrooms and eat them. And they even last a while in the fridge. You can keep them for a week or two. So it's a lot of fun and like a learning experience to see how mushrooms work and be able to get to do it again in 2 weeks because most of them fruit again. It's a real blast.
And educational. Den Hill sells the bulk of their fungal products to families with young kids.
It's really been amazing seeing the youth, especially like 5 to 12-year-olds that are really showing interest in coming out of the woodwork.
Mushrooms tend to capture young imaginations for many reasons, not least because they capture environmental toxins. When Harder explained this to me, his enthusiasm was infectious.
When mushrooms eat toxic chemicals like plastics or oil spills, like oyster mushrooms can live on an oil spill, clean it, and produce safe mushrooms to eat. It's really incredible.
Harder also delights in vegans and experimental chefs growing tabletop farms for the joy of eating those fresh fruiting bodies, sometimes as an alternative to meat. Two of the most popular countertop mushrooms are lion's mane, which tastes like lobster, and oyster, which tastes like mushrooms. When it comes to a kitchen kit, the world's your oyster.
We probably have 24 different types of mushrooms in our culture library that we're actively growing.
The farming and foraging worlds aren't mutually exclusive. Most mycelium appreciation communities tend to be friendly with each other regardless of methodology. Harder thinks this is in part because mushrooms are so hyperlocal.
So I think mushrooms create community by having to be a decentralized system where cultures and strains and mushroom fruiting bodies can be sold and traded locally because of their lack of shippability and kind of regional availability.
Kits bring mushrooms safely and easily into your home. For the thrill of a woodland hunt, don't go it alone, hunt down a mushroom club. They're prolific in Appalachia. Foraged or farmed, fungi can be fantastic fun. For Inside Appalachia, I'm Wendy Welch.
Gathering wild foods has long been a way to put food on the table in the Appalachian Mountains. But foraging is an acquired skill, and it's not so easy to learn unless you have people to show you. Of course, in the internet age, it's become a lot easier to find those kinds of folks in online communities devoted to mushroom hunting and using native plants. One woman in eastern Kentucky made a name for herself online as Appalachian Forager, and her videos have gone viral. Last year, Folkways reporter Amanda Page visited Appalachian Forager and had this story.
In the butt crack of that tree, that's a lion's mane.
This is Appalachian Forager.
And I'm going to have to use my hillbilly ingenuity to get it because she's high up.
It's the social media account of East Kentuckian Whitney Johnson.
You want me to get below it and try to catch it?
Yeah.
While you poke it?
Yeah.
In this Instagram reel, Whitney is cheering on her boyfriend who's attempting to knock a mushroom down from a tree with a stick.
Yes, Daddy. You know what Mommy likes in a mushroom stick. Look at that fork. Yeah.
In another more fast-paced reel, she's in her kitchen, cooking with pawpaws. She mixes the yellow pulp from this native fruit with sugar and pectin to make jam.
Keep stirring. After that, remove the baby from the heat and transfer it to your Canon command station. What's on mine? It's a tea towel laid out with a dry paper towel to lay stuff on, a damp paper towel, ladle, tongs, Canon funnel, a jar grabby do flarchy, and yes, honey, a fan because your girl runs hot. Real hot. I sterilized 13 jars in my water bag.
Appalachian Forager's videos are highly entertaining, but the account is not just for show. Because in real life, Whitney forages, cooks, and makes tinctures because it's what she loves to do. I've come to meet Whitney IRL. In real life, she uses a four-wheeler so she can cover more ground on her family's property in eastern Kentucky. It's pawpaw season, so we're headed out to find some. Whitney takes us in the direction of the Big Sandy River. We stop at a tree loaded with pawpaws.
So I'm going to stop us right here. What we're going to do first, is we'll get off here. You see, look at that big cluster right there.
Oh my goodness.
So,
But Whitney says she doesn't shake the tree or pick fruit from it. She only gathers pawpaws once they've fallen on the ground.
like, they let you know when they're ready. So if you shake the tree, sometimes they'll come off when they're not quite ripe. And pawpaws are not ones that you can put in your windowsill and get them to be softer. Like, they are what they are. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you shake the tree.
We could have gone foraging deeper in the woods today, but Whitney chose this section along the river for a reason.
Well, riverbanks give you different stuff than, say, the woods would. So you're going to have different types of soil, different types of trees, different types of terrain.
She says here, by the river, she has a pretty good idea of what she'll find. Along with pawpaws, this is where she finds berries. But in the woods, she's never certain what she'll find.
It's like, honey, you don't know. It can be anything. And I like that. I like to find new stuff and be surprised.
It might just be that element of surprise that makes Whitney's social media presence so appealing to her followers. Appalachian Forager started in 2020 with posts on her personal Instagram account. She grew up foraging and decided to document her outings.
I would post a picture of a mushroom and say, this is a blotadol and you can eat it or it'll kill you or whatever.
But at first, her posts didn't really catch on.
And some of my buddies were like, TikTok, you need to get on TikTok. And I was so anti-TikTok. But I got on there and I made this poorly put together intro video that was I'm Whitney and these are things that I plan to do on my TikTok. Follow me if that tickles your pickle. And it just whoosh.
Appalachian Forager took off. She's now got more than 845,000 TikTok followers, and her Instagram account has more than 123,000 followers. But Whitney's not in it for the clicks. She's a licensed mental health therapist. She works part-time. On her days off, she says she's romping in the hills, foraging.
These go hand in hand for me because as a therapist, I preach self-care all day. You know, make sure you're doing what you love, make sure you're taking care of yourself. And I get that through my relationship with nature.
She says she doesn't force advice, but she's asked patients if they've considered going for a walk in nature or taking photos and journaling.
And I suggest that because I know how much it helps me.
She says eventually she'd like to specialize in ecotherapy, where she'd encourage patients to go out in nature to improve their mental health.
I want people to connect with Mama Nature. So like the hills and the woods are my church. And if you can connect in that way and get, you know, that serotonin boost like I do from it, do it. And, you know, it's nice to be able to go out and get some free food too. You get up.
After our time on the riverbank, we hang out on Whitney's porch and have a pawpaw tasting.
Oh, it's a good. It's a good.
Oh, wow.
Yay, nay.
I had only tried pawpaws one other time. Much better than the last one I had. The one that we were talking about putting in my oatmeal, it was like a vague vomit taste.
That's because it wasn't ripe, see? This is why you want them to be like almost rotten looking, because that is when they taste the best.
After we eat pawpaws, I ask her about her earrings. I've been admiring them all day. She tells me they're made with coyote teeth she found in a ditch.
I like taking anything from the frickin' woods, bringing it home and like turning it into something beautiful, useful, because that's just how I am, you know. And I think that's how I was raised. Do what you can with what you have.
That's often how her meals come together, too.
I always try to pull from, you know, old-timey, mamaw, papaw, like plate-breaking, like gut-busting foods, you know, like good garden foods, like green beans and like chicken and dumplings, just like good down-home food.
She says she incorporates foods she finds in the woods with those simple Eastern Kentucky dishes.
So it's kind of like taking the two and fusing it together. Because I want to stay true to that part of me, because that's how I grew up. And I mean, honestly, that's my favorite food that's out there is, you know, throw some bacon grease in it and it's going to be good.
She tells me about a mountain dish she shared with her followers called killed lettuce and onions.
Killed lettuce and onions is pretty much just like wild greens or lettuce with bacon grease poured on top of it. Start out by frying you up some piggy strips. Yes, bacon, honey. We're using bacon. Get your 4 big green onions and give them a chop. And I posted that video, and so many people were like, oh my God, like, I haven't had that in forever. I totally forgot that was something I loved as a kid. So I like to revive those old dishes and have people, like, in this day and age, be making those old, you know, wholesome down-home meals. Once the bacon cools down enough to get my paws on it, I'm going to rip it up just like I have done with every fishing ticket that a game warden has given me.
Whitney's bringing that revival of old dishes to hundreds of thousands of followers online. Her followers ask questions in the comments and share tips they've learned from making the recipes she shares. They're doing what she's doing. She's foraging for the TikTok generation. But she says she won't be changed by social media.
I'm going to stay true to who I am. I don't plan on doing anything crazy, selling out and becoming like some crazy boss babe thing. I'm just going to stay in the holler and pick my mushrooms and make some little videos.
We'll be here to watch them. For Inside Appalachia, I'm Amanda Page.
And like I said, this whole bowl's for me, so supper is served. And you know it's good when you stand at the kitchen counter and just devour it. Now y'all go and try this because it is so good it'll make your tongue slap your brains out.
Whitney Johnson, aka Appalachian Forager, has a new book. It's titled Go Forth and Forage, a guide to foraging over 50 of the most common edible and medicinal North American mushrooms. It's available from Cool Springs Press. That story and the one before it are part of our Folkways reporting project, which covers arts and culture in our region. You can find more Folkways stories at our website, wvpublic.org. Coming up, climate change is affecting some seasonal food traditions, like tapping trees for maple syrup. What some sugar makers are doing to adapt. You're Inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams.
Support for Inside Appalachia is provided by Concord University, educating the people of our region and beyond for more than 150 years. More information at concord.edu.
For lovers of warm weather, the transition from winter to spring can be an excruciating time with fits and starts and full spring. But that agonizing transition between cold and warmer weather also affects trees. Their sap inches up and then comes back down. And that's how we get maple syrup. Highland County, Virginia, and its neighbors in West Virginia are some of the southernmost places in the U.S. to make maple syrup. Generations of people in these communities have turned tapping trees for syrup into a long-standing tradition. But modern producers are experimenting with new syrups while adapting to changing demands and a changing climate. From our Folkways archives, we bring you this story from Clara Hazlett.
In late winter in Highland County, maple syrup production is a visible part of the landscape. There are maple trees everywhere, adorned with metal buckets and laced with blue tubing. There's wood smoke rising from the sugar houses. There's a maple sugar road and a sugar holler and a sugar tree country store.
This is the sugar water. Look how clear it is.
Pat Lowry and his wife Valerie operate a sugar camp in Highland County called Back Creek Farms. Like many in the area, Pat's family has been making maple syrup here for generations.
I was born down the road about 3/4 of a mile. Every farm had a sugar shack, and it wasn't mainly for syrup, it was mainly for sugar.
Pat started helping his dad with their maple production when he was 8 years old. Valerie says he has maple syrup in his veins.
And he would make syrup 365 days a year if he could.
Each March, Pat and Valerie take part in the annual Maple Festival, where different sugar camps demonstrate the process of making syrup.
Did you know this is what comes out of the tree? Have you seen sugar water before?
Throughout the county, people make and sell all things maple, from maple donuts to maple barbecue. The festival's been a staple for over 60 years in Highland County, and the tradition of making syrup here started well before that. But over the years, practices have evolved as people like Pat and Valerie apply new ideas and techniques to production.
We're trying to break the traditions a little bit.
People kept asking, what do you have that's new? Nobody had anything, it was new. It was, light syrup, medium syrup, dark syrup.
So they started experimenting. They aged syrup in whiskey barrels and infused the pure maple syrup with natural flavors like elderberry. At this year's Maple Festival, Pat's boiling down sap, or around here what they call sugar water, while Valerie offers samples to visitors.
Now we are going to do chili pepper and ginger. You all are going to try the hickory syrup. And hickory is made from the bark of a hickory tree. You'll get this next. So it's made from the bark of a...
Gary Mongold of Petersburg, West Virginia, has been going to the Highland County Maple Festival since he was a kid.
What pulls the people at the Highland County Maple Festival was the donuts. I don't know if you found a donut trailer up there or not, but the line is humongous.
The line was humongous. But this year, Gary didn't make it to the festival. He's busy with his own operation. It's his second year of making black walnut syrup.
I can take you up to here and show you a little better.
Gary's showing me around his sugar grove in his side-by-side. His property is full of walnuts, situated along a steep hillside that opens out to a panorama view of Petersburg, Moorfield, and Mount Storm.
All these trees down under here's got tubing to them. Then tubing runs all down here and makes a loop and goes down that holler and catches all these walnut trees back in here.
The process borrows the basic principles of maple sugaring. You drill a hole, tap a tree, and out comes the sugar water. Gary pumps the sap down the hill using an old dairy pump. When it's boiled down, it transforms into a dark syrup.
I can't describe it. It's awesome, I think. A little sweeter, but it leaves a better taste in your mouth. And I eat a bowl of ice cream pretty near every night with about 2 tablespoons on it. I just dearly love it. If I don't watch, I'll eat my profits up.
Black walnut syrup is an emerging industry, and Gary is one of just a handful of producers in the region. He's been working with Future Generations University out of Franklin, West Virginia, to conduct research on the process. They're trying to figure out the best techniques for production. You see, walnut trees don't produce as much sap as maples, and the sap has less sugar. In short, it takes more to make less. And unlike maple, walnut sap contains naturally occurring pectin, which, when it's boiled down, becomes a thick goo, making the syrup difficult to filter. But Gary's undeterred by these challenges, and he's even found a creative use for the pectin.
About a year ago, I listened to 89.5 PBS here in Petersburg, and they was talking about the Mayo Clinic working with pectin for arthritis and gout.
Gary's had both. So ever since, he's been taking a teaspoon of walnut pectin in his morning coffee. While pectin isn't FDA approved for this purpose, Gary says it's relieved pain from his arthritis.
It's been helping me.
Using the pectin, like making the syrup itself, is an experiment. And this season, there's been another variable shaking things up.
It hasn't been a very good season for sap to run. Mother Nature has not given us very good weather.
Last year, Gary got about 17 gallons of syrup. This year, he added even more taps, but the season's almost over, and so far, he's only gotten 5 gallons.
I'm 63 years old. This is the first year that I remember hardly no snow. We haven't yet to have much snow at all. We ain't even had enough to plow the roads here.
In order for the sap to run, you need to have freezing nights and temperatures above freezing during the day.
But when we get these climate change like we're having and get a 70-degree day, 3 70-degree days in February, that just put a stop to everything.
The water must have boiled.
Back in Highland County, Virginia, temperatures in February averaged nearly 40 degrees Fahrenheit, making it the second warmest February on record. Here's Pat Lowry from Back Creek Farms.
Honestly, in my 71 years, I have never seen a February like this.
Even the more conventional maple syrup producers were forced to adapt, like Doug Puffenbarger and his wife Terry.
It's been 4 or 5 generations of Puffenbargers, back from the 1700s.
They're not interested in making different tree syrups or trying out infusions.
We don't want to do that. We just want the real deal, and that's what we're doing.
But this year, the warm February dried up production mid-season. So when a cold snap hit in March, right around the Maple Festival, her husband decided to try something different. He re-tapped his maple trees, drilling new holes in hopes of collecting fresh sap.
He's never done that before. With the warm temperatures in February, the climate's changing, and that might be a new thing we're going to do.
Gary ended up re-tapping his walnut trees too. He got 5 more gallons of syrup, bringing his total for this year up to 10 gallons. And although it's significantly less than last year, he's optimistic.
It is kind of risky, I reckon. It's fairly good money when you start selling your product, but I don't look for every year to be bad. There's going to be a lot of good years.
And Gary's already thinking about next year. Around this area, tree sap generally runs from the end of January through the end of March. But Gary thinks that pattern might be changing.
We're going to try something. It's going to be new, and we're going to try tapping the first week of December.
And in Highland County, there's talk of switching the March Maple Festival to earlier in the season, too, when there's a higher likelihood of cold nights, warm days, and sugar water on the boil. For Inside Appalachia, I'm Clara Hazlett.
As longtime gardeners know, irrigating young plants is a crucial part of gardening. One way to bring fresh water to your garden is with a rain barrel. It could also save money in the long run. Colleen Seeger is a stormwater technician for the city of Martinsburg, West Virginia. Last fall, WVPB's Jack Walker spoke with Seeger about the benefits of rain barrels and how to install them.
So what are rain barrels and how do you use them?
So rain barrel, you can buy them at Lowe's or Home Depot or even Tractor Supply. has barrels and kits that you can get. But it's essentially like a food grade barrel, and you can buy a kit for it and cut holes in it and install it yourself in your home, and it attaches to your gutter, and it collects any of the water that hits your roof that would go into the ground, and you can just keep it in, I'm not too sure how big these barrels are. I want to say they're about 50 gallons. And it stores the water there for you, and you can use it to water your garden whenever you need. It also, if it gets full, it has like an overflow, so it infiltrates through the ground instead of turning into runoff, which can pick up pollutants, and we try to avoid any unnecessary stormwater runoff.
Can you expand on that? What are some of the benefits of using rain barrels in gardening or in agriculture?
Sure. So rain barrels, you can use them for watering your garden. They can be really good for collecting rainwater so that they don't go down our stormwater infrastructure. It's a great way to keep your garden and our watershed healthy. So not only can it help lower the cost of your water bill, but they can also benefit you and your community in tons of ways. Collecting rainwater, it reduces the amount of stormwater that enters the storm system, and that can decrease the burden on the infrastructure, which minimizes risks of like a combined sewer overflow, which can obviously be bad for our watershed. Letting it infiltrate the ground instead of turning into runoff will minimize pollution. That's always appreciated. So for like a stormwater perspective, if it turns into stormwater, it can turn into, pick up trash and oil, other toxic pollutants before it reaches our stream. We have the Tuscarora and the dry run in the city of Martinsburg, so that's primarily what we try to protect pollutants from getting into. Anytime rainwater is collected, it's slowed down, and it can prevent pollutants entering the stream, and it can, whether it's like sediment and nutrients or oil and heavy metals, we want to try to keep that stuff out of our creeks. So collecting it, not only does it help prevent pollution, but you can also use it to have a really healthy garden. And it has, it's the purest form of water, so it doesn't have any added chemicals or anything in that. So that's exactly what your plants want to thrive. It can, divert water away from, say you have like your water's coming down from your roof and it's infiltrating down into the ground and causing some flooding issues in your basement. If you have a rain barrel, it can kind of fix that for you. And also you can have a garden that's nice and lush and beautiful.
How has the city of Martinsburg been spreading awareness about rain barrels and their benefits?
So the city of Martinsburg hosts typically 2 workshops a year at the Roundhouse for the farmers market, where cities that live within the city limits can get free rain barrels if they sign up. We typically have someone reach out to the local newspaper or on social media, and we'll post that there or on our website, and we'll update that whenever we have rain barrel workshops. I know the county also, often they'll raffle off free rain barrels. Berkeley County Stormwater, they often raffle off their rain barrels, and you can give them a call if you don't live within city limits. And we eventually one day would like to have, the city and the county work together for an event, maybe where we can have folks come out and paint rain barrels, and it'd be like a really fun community activity where people can come out and learn about how they work, how to install them, how to keep them safe during the winter time and make them last as long as you possibly can. So we'll try to have more events in the future so people can come out and do that, or just learn about it. They don't have to sign up for a rain barrel. They can just come out. Anybody can come out and learn about what they're good for and how to make them work for whatever they need them for, whether it's their garden or if they're having some damp basements or anything like that. We typically try to host those events twice a year.
That was Colleen Ziegler, stormwater technician in Martinsburg, West Virginia, speaking with WVPB's Jack Walker. For a lot of my friends, the best part of spring isn't blooming trees or gardens or even the return of warmer weather. It's the return of trout fishing season. And while some anglers update their tackle with the latest innovation and new lures, fly fishing is a different story. A lot of folks who fly fish prefer to do things the old-fashioned way, with fishing flies and rods made by hand using traditional materials. In 2023, Folkways reporter Zach Harold took us out on the Elk River for a lesson in the art of fly fishing.
When Lee Orr goes fly fishing, he doesn't haul his rod in one of those racks on the front bumper of his pickup. He doesn't wedge it into the back seat, and he sure doesn't throw it in the bed to rattle around with his tackle box and cooler. Lee keeps his fishing rods in a hard plastic case. And inside of that case, the pole is shrouded in a hand-sewn linen pouch. You understand why once he takes it out.
This one is, of course, I probably didn't put a date on it. I just put a number. This is the 13th one, 11th one. So that's probably, I don't know, 17 years old or somewhere around in there.
The two sections are made of a honey-colored wood, bamboo, actually, and come together inside a delicate brass fitting. Both sections are accented with bands of red silk thread, which, besides looking good, hold down the handmade line guides. The bottom of the rod, where the reel attaches, is made from dark walnut. The handle is crafted from cork. This isn't just a fishing pole. It's a work of art. And it even has the artist's signature right there on the shaft, written in black ink. Lee put it there himself, because he made this rod, and 133 others like it. And all it took was some hand tools and a whole lot of time. Lee discovered fly fishing as a kid. He grew up in West Virginia but spent each August in Montana, where his dad grew up.
A couple guys came up this little creek, I think it's Little Bear Creek or something. It's up near the Wyoming border, or might actually be in Wyoming. And they just were catching fish one after the other. So I told my dad, it's like, I want to learn how to fly fish.
He didn't take to bamboo fly rods quite as quickly. He tried a few of them, but found them heavy and unwieldy. But his opinion changed at a workshop he attended.
And somebody had a little 7-foot Orvis bamboo rod, and I cast that, and I really liked it. And did some research and was shocked to find that you can build these things in your basement.
So 20 years ago, that's exactly what he started doing. The process starts halfway around the world, in the Gulf of Tonkin. This region on the border of Vietnam and China is home to a variety of bamboo that's coveted by fishing rod makers. The walls of Tonkin cane are thick, and its fibers are both strong and flexible. These culms of bamboo are cut down and loaded into shipping containers, headed for the United States, eventually finding their way to basement workshops like the one Lee keeps in his Charleston, West Virginia home. To turn bamboo into a bamboo fly rod, you start with a dull knife. Lee taps it into one end of the cane with a hammer.
You actually take a knife and twist and break it apart, and then you break it down into 6 individual strips, and then you have to work it and straighten it, get the little bumps and hooves out of it.
Once he's broken the bamboo into strips, they go into his planing form. This is a 4-foot hunk of steel with a groove running down the middle, which holds the strips at a precise 60-degree angle. Lee places a strip in that groove and goes to work with a hand plane. He makes pass after pass using smaller and smaller wood planes to shave off thin ribbons of bamboo. He keeps going until the top of the strip is flush with the top of the form. Then he repeats the process 5 more times. 3 strips for the tip section of the rod and 3 for the butt section.
Then you wind up with 6 60-degree strips tapered that you then roll back up together and glue together.
Lee also makes metal loops for the rod's line guides, which he ties on with silk thread. He makes the rod's reel seat by turning wood on a lathe. He stains and finishes the wood and shapes the handle from cork.
There's still a couple pieces that I don't make, but eventually get to the point where I'd like to make it stem to stern, every bit of it myself. I gotta probably retire before I do that and get a little more equipment.
At present, it takes Lee somewhere between 60 to 80 hours to complete a rod. He's working on rod number 135 right now, which means he spent the equivalent of a year of his life sitting at his workbench, planing and wrapping and gluing and shaping. And that's probably a conservative estimate. Some rods take longer than others, and the whole process took a lot longer when he was first starting out in the early 2000s. See, there weren't a whole lot of books on the subject, and certainly no YouTube tutorials. Lee got his introduction to the craft on an email listserv. For those of you who weren't on the internet back then, a listserv was like an email version of a group chat. Anytime Lee would have a question, he'd shoot out a message, and someone would write back.
Just a bunch of old cranky old guys. That's kind of the community, but they're really helpful about passing down information.
But the community wasn't only generous with its knowledge. Remember those planing forms that Lee used to whittle down his bamboo strips? He inherited those from another rod maker who made the forms by filing them down by hand, a job that probably took hundreds of hours. And when Lee was making the tool he uses to twist wire into line guides, another maker stepped in to help.
There was plans online, and I didn't have the things for it, and someone sent me all the stuff from it, all the brass hex rod and these set screws and and just said, hey, well, next time somebody else needs something, you just kind of pay it forward kind of thing. So, and I've done that.
Lee has paid it forward. As the community migrated off of that listserv and onto forums and Facebook groups, he's become one of the old guys of the group, though not quite as cranky as the ones who took him under their wing.
I found an old chunk of American chestnut in an old house that had fallen down and got on that forum and say, hey, anybody wants American chestnut to make some reel seats out of? And wind up shipping that stuff all over to people that wanted it. Just say, give me the shipping and I'll send you the wood and stuff. So
he says it's partly out of self-preservation. The more bamboo fly rod makers there are in the world, the more motivation there will be for folks to continue importing Tonkin cane from the other side of the planet. But talking to Lee, you get the sense that that isn't the only reason he wants to pass down what he knows. For one thing, he's just a natural-born teacher. When I tagged along as he fished the Elk River last fall, I told him I just wanted to observe, but he couldn't help himself.
So the casting motion is the same thing as throwing a baseball, essentially.
I didn't even have a rod, and yet I got a beginner's class in fly casting.
People get a fly rod, and the first thing they want to do is they want to do this. And you wouldn't throw a baseball like that. You throw a baseball like that. So the motion is just exactly the same as throwing a baseball.
Lee also shares what he knows because he wants to preserve what his old school rods represent. A link to a time when you put your catch in a wicker creel instead of a Yeti cooler. A time before sportsmen traded in their fedoras for baseball caps and their canvas canoes for fiberglass bass boats.
If I just wanted to go catch fish, I would go fish a carbon rod and I'd fish live bait and I would catch more fish.
All that stuff is readily available at any well-stocked Walmart. And it's fairly cheap. It would work just fine.
But there's a lot of things that work just fine that just kind of lack a little bit of soul to them.
For Inside Appalachia, I'm Zach Harold in Charleston, West Virginia.
Bog turtles are the tiniest turtle in North America, and they're also among the most endangered. Their habitats are disappearing. Last year, Radio IQ's Roxy Todd tagged along with biologists who were researching how many of these rare turtles still exist.
I was warned before I went. There was hardly any chance that I'd see a bog turtle. They're tiny and like to hide.
Rarely, even if you know there's bog turtles in an area, will you ever see one.
Amy Roberts has only seen a few, and she's been researching them for years with the Amphibian and Reptile Conservancy, along with Mike Knorr.
Bog turtles are 3 or 4 inches long, and they have a big orange-reddish patch behind their eye as well, which is pretty typical for the species, pretty iconic. I think they're beautiful.
The bog turtle was in the headlines earlier this year after organizers of Floyd Fest announced they'd hit delays in the permitting process for their new property in Floyd County. They canceled this year's music festival, and some people went on social media blaming the bog turtle as the culprit. In fact, the turtle had nothing to do with Floyd Fest's postponement, says one of the festival organizers, Sam Calhoun.
Harming anything is kind of the antithesis of Floyd Fest from the very beginning. We're doing everything by the book so we can protect anything that needs to be protected.
Even though they haven't seen any bog turtles on their property, Calhoun says they've adjusted their construction plans to keep the wetlands untouched. The main risks to bog turtles are their disappearing habitats, as housing developments and roads replace these bogs, and landowners ditch or drain the swamps. Floyd County actually has some of the best preserved bogs for these turtles, says state herpetologist J.D. Klepfer.
It's like the good Lord just took a pepper shaker and just shook out these little wetlands all over Floyd County.
Bog turtles have existed in these mountains for at least 10,000 years. If you look at a photo of these things, your heart may seriously melt. They're so cute, in fact, they go for big money on the black market and poachers steal them. Today, they're listed as endangered in Virginia, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is considering adding southern populations of bog turtles to the list of federally protected endangered species. So I had to promise never to disclose our location when I accompanied the biologists to watch as they set up camera traps.
It's a lot of work to survey all these wetlands around this area.
Muddy water sloshes around our legs as we move through tall grasses, beautiful swamp rose flowers, and a strong-smelling plant called swamp cabbage. And then we spot a bog turtle nest with 4 eggs.
It makes me so excited. This is so beautiful.
Cool, guys.
But I've never seen eggs. Holy moly.
The news is also a shock to the landowner. He was completely unaware that bog turtles live on his property. In a month, the scientists will take the cameras back to their lab, where they'll analyze thousands of photos to see how many bog turtles and other animals they can spot. In 3 years, they hope to have a better sense of how many bog turtles still live in the mountains of Appalachia. In a bog, somewhere in Floyd County, I'm Roxy Todd.
Ramp season is well underway across Appalachia. Rams usually show up near the end of March and then fade away sometime in May. In 2024, before the last ramp was picked, producer Bill Lynch followed a friend out for a late harvest at her secret ramp patch. He brought us this.
It's a dry day at the end of April, and I'm in a location that can't be disclosed. Partly this is because we're gathering ramps, and foragers like my friend Jamie keep these places secret. And partly this is because I don't know exactly where we are, except to say somewhere in Kanawha County. Probably. This is my second time gathering ramps. I went out a couple years ago and brought home a shopping bag full of the garlicky smelling things. I cooked some of them with beans and ham, but gave most of them away to whoever would take them. This time I'm just following along with Jamie while she collects some for friends and her mom.
That little ridge over. Easier for you to go first than me.
I don't know. From the car, we hike about 15 minutes until we get to the patch. We're not far from the road, and other people have been here before. Sandwich and chip wrappers, plastic cups, and a flattened Monster energy drink litter the ground. The steep hillside seems like a weird place to have a picnic. Jamie tells me she's been foraging for about 10 years. She's self-taught. Ramps are kind of a gateway into the world of finding wild food.
This is one of the easiest things to start foraging once you're here. Before that, I'd pay $20 for a bag at whatever roadside swamp meat I could find.
The ramp patch is huge. Ramps cover the side of the hill in great clumps, but they're not all that easy to get to, particularly if you're carrying a microphone and wearing boots that are made more for hiking to a coffee shop than going out in the woods. So I stand by a tree while Jamie climbs down the side of the hill with a bag and a gardening trowel. She digs out a few bunches here and there and leaves the rest. Just taking some of the ramps as being responsible. Jamie wants them to come back. Besides, not all of the ramps are worth taking. The season is coming to an end. So how can you tell when the things are done? Like when they're...
They disappear.
Huh?
They disappear.
They disappear?
They won't be here in 2 weeks. They're just gone. He'll put up a little stick and has these little bulbs on it. And the seeds come in little clusters. I don't know if it's pods of 4 or 6, but they kind of face outward. One little round up like an onion, you know? And the seeds look much like them. They turn solid black. Casings are tan. I don't see anything that looks like it's got a runner, but see, they're mature. They pretty much wanted to come out of the ground. There was a lot of digging involved in the babies I got at the earlier season. Yeah. They were, we were working to get those up. This time there wasn't anything to it. Give it a little scoop and they just pull from the soil, but the bulbs last time were so tiny compared to. These will be much more strong, more pungent. But do you see also how the leaves are turning yellow? You're getting what looks kind of like brown spot in your houseplants. They're done. They're just getting old, kind of like things will dry out in your fridge.
Jamie fills up her grocery bag. Then she leads me out of the woods and back to the car. We put the bag in the trunk and then start towards Charleston.
I can really smell it now. I'm just driving around, I can smell it.
That's why we're going to stop at the house on the way to dinner and drop them off. We're not doing this.
For Inside Appalachia, I'm Bill Lynch.
Till next time, thanks for joining us as we journey throughout Appalachia. Our theme music is by Matt Jackford. Other music this week was provided by John Blissard, John Ingram, Tim Bing, Mary Hott, and Bob Thompson. Bill Lynch is our producer. Abby Neff is our associate producer. Our executive producer is Eric Douglas. Kelly Libby is our editor. Our audio mixer is Patrick Stevens. We had help this week from Folkways editors Jennifer Gorin, Chris Julin, Nicole Musgrave, and Mallory No Pain. You can find us on Instagram @InAppalachia. You can also send us an email to insideappalachia@wvpublic.org. Visit wvpublic.org/InsideAppalachia to subscribe or stream all of our stories. Or look for Inside Appalachia on your favorite podcast app. Inside Appalachia is a production of West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for Inside Appalachia is provided by Concord University, focusing on students' futures. Classes available at concord.edu/apply.